Hi, my name's Amanda from Learning to Love Well, and today we're going to talk about something a little different. We're going to talk about meal prep and homeschool. If you have been a homeschool mama for a little while, you know that you also carry the lunch lady job as a homeschool mama, as well as the teacher, principal, nurse, guidance counselor, and everything else in your home. And so as a homeschool mama, I like to prep ahead and do things that I can to make my life a little bit easier. Transitions in homeschool can be a really big time sucker. And what I mean by that is that when you are transitioning from, like farm chores, homeschool, lunch, if you have any kids who need a little bit of extra time or things like that, or individual attention from mom, sometimes things like getting up and cooking for 35 to 45 minutes to, sit back down with your kids can take a huge chunk of the day out after cleanup and eating and all of those things. And because of that, I try to do whatever I can to circumvent that by helping myself out and giving myself little hacks or shortcuts along the way. And so what I mean by that is, first, let me preface, my family eats primarily from scratch. We eat non-GMO organic food. And this isn't because we, are, I guess, stuck up. It's more because of the fact that 10 years ago, 11 years ago now, I had gotten up to 235 pounds with my second child, and I had lost probably down to about 180 pounds and really plateaued. Could not lose the weight, and I had gained a lot of weight, and I had gotten really unhealthy. And I had switched to non-GMO organic foods and non-antibiotic or non-hormone meats. And I actually watched the weight just fall off of me. I got down to 140 pounds without ever exercising, which is pretty unheard of. And I didn't really sacrifice what I was eating. I was still eating things like cookies, and I was still eating junk food. I mean, I was having frozen yogurt at night. I was, I wasn't eating just salads all the time, right? I actually was enjoying what I was eating, and I was having meals. In fact, I was even going up for seconds on proteins and stuff like that I wanted. But the difference is that I didn't have all the chemicals. I didn't have all the pesticides. I didn't have all the natural fillers in the foods and the things like that a lot of people eat nowadays, and they don't even know that they're consuming. So fast forward 10 plus years, and after having 2 more kids, I have still kept the weight off. Now, of course, my weight fluctuated a little bit when I got pregnant, and has, I go somewhere between 140 and 150, depending on the season, depending on, how much we are getting out and exercising or things of that nature, but I haven't shot back up. In fact, when I seem to get off of the way that we eat now and go back on regular foods on a consistent basis, I find myself getting sick pretty quick. And I also find my body inflaming in ways that I never noticed before. When I am eating healthy and when I am eating non-GMO organic foods, I actually have found myself 32 years old, more athletic than I was when I was 10 years ago. I can do the jump boxes at the gym. I can hit the gym with my husband, and I can wrestle my kids. I can pick up my kids. There's not as much of a issue with having fun with the kids, where in the past I was a lot more sluggish. I didn't feel very good. And when I eat consistently healthy, when I'm eating my probiotics, my prebiotics, and a lot of our homemade foods, I do find that I'm just in a way better, healthy state, and my kids are too. So to preface that, my meal prep might look different than what you may be seen. We don't do like the individual compartment boxes with rice, chicken, and broccoli every day. That is not what I'm talking about. Like in this video, you are going to see things like donuts. You're going to see cookies. You're going to see some homemade kimchi that we made and things like that. Now, I'm not saying you have to start implementing this, but if you are interested in eating super healthy and from scratch meals, you will know that if you eat that way, meal prep can be a long process. A lot of the vegetables that we eat, we want to try to grow ourselves, or we want to get them in. By the way, if you see my hands, this is tomato. I know there's a way to get it off, but I have to look it back up and I can't figure out how to get it back off. I'm a gardener, so my hands have unfortunately seen the wrath of the tomato junk. Anyway, and I always forget to wear gloves and use the pruning tools that, of course, I bought, but, you know, nothing like my good old pinchers when I go out there. So anyway, the reason I want to say what I'm saying is because so many of us get discouraged. We go to convenience foods and things like that because they are quicker and easier, and in our busy lifestyles, it just sometimes helps. So I'm going to share a couple of hacks that I've learned over the years, and hopefully they help in your homeschool too. The first one is make double for your trouble. If I am going to be meal prepping bread, like sourdough bread, if I am going to be making the mess, if I'm going to be making the bowl, if I am going to be mixing, using utensils and all of those things, and I'm already sitting there, I might as well make double of whatever I'm making. So when I make sourdough bread, I will go ahead and prep 4 loaves for the whole week. If I am making English muffins for my family or something like that, I will go ahead and make the dough the night before. I will double it, and I will go ahead and fry it and bake them all in the same time. And then we'll just put them in Ziploc bags, and we will use them as like PB&J, or I'll even throw sausages under the broiler and we'll have them for lunch, and we'll split them apart, put the sausage and cheese in. And if I'm making baked sourdough donuts or any baked products, I will try to make double, especially like muffins or cookies. For the longest time, I have made homemade chocolate chip cookies, and I put about a gallon size amount of chocolate chip cookies in my freezer, and I will pull the amount of cookies that we need out, about 1 or 2, or about 2 a person, and put them underneath the broiler for 10 minutes, and then we've got fresh homemade cookies. If you are someone who likes sweets and things like that, I would much rather eat things that I know what's going in it. And so because of that, we like to do that. This week, I also made homemade Reese's treats. That was a new one for us. My kids like candy, and they like getting prizes sometimes if they do really well in their homeschool and their homework. But organic, non-GMO chocolate is super expensive, and so we tried making homemade Reese's, and they were an absolute hit, and they are delicious. I actually took a Buckeyes recipe and made them into Reese cups, and I tell you, they were absolutely delicious. We have been really enjoying them, and we actually, you know, tried that batch a little too much. You know what I'm saying? Yes, we know what we're talking about. The other thing that I try to do is, if I can, especially during garden season, is I will try to sit down and make a ton of ferments homemade. Now, when I mean a ton, I will try to ferment everything that needs to be fermented all at once. So I only have to make the brine once, and I can go ahead and put everything on set to ferment all at once. It does cut down on my time, and when you are cutting up all of those things all at once, sometimes it makes the difference. Just do it once. Just do it once. Make it dirty once. Make it dirty once. Clean it up once. That is how I like to roll. And there are some other things that you can do this with. There are some people who make 2 casseroles at a time, shove the other one in the freezer. You know, there are, like if I make tart dough or something like that, we can always make double and put it away. anything like that, anything that can be stored or frozen afterwards, by all means, make double and put it away. Now, I'm not perfect at this. The other day, after even knowing that I was filming this video, I made cookies for, you know, homemade to bring over to a friend's house. And I was like, I only made one batch. But I felt like that's okay. Because, you know, I just prayed about it and I was like, Lord. And then the first thing I thought about was, well, I show that I don't get it all right. So there you go. I don't get it all right. I'm still a work in progress, and I am still working on mastering this meal prepping, make it easier on mommy self game. Another thing is, if you can it, can it. And so what I mean by that is, so I have the ball canning jar right here, and there are recipes in some canning books that are all in one. I actually just canned some turkey breasts that I had bought. Well, I had bought like a 22-pound turkey that was a really good quality turkey, and I had cut up the breast and canned it. And today we were running behind on homeschool, and I just made some rice. I stuck some already canned turkey breasts into the pot with some frozen vegetables, added a little bit of flour for a gravy mix, and we put it over rice, and it was delicious. And that didn't take very long. It took like 20 minutes to make dinner. So if you can, if you know how to pressure can, if you know how to do any kind of canning, I highly recommend canning one meal jars or canning your proteins. Especially poultry cans really extremely well. And so if you can can it, then you have a quick meal all the time on your shelf ready to go. And I will say it does save you a ton of time. It saved me a ton of time tonight. And it was wonderful because then we could sit back down after dinner. After we got everything cleaned up, I could go out to the garden and switch some plants around that needed to get switched, and come back in and sit in here with my kids. And that was a huge blessing. Thank you, Jesus. Definitely made my life a whole lot easier, and I am so thankful that I chose to go ahead and do that like a week ago. And so there's also things like recipes where you can actually do a whole meal in a jar instead of buying the stuff that's already done for you at the store that you're not sure about the ingredients. You can actually control the ingredients. So some of them look really awesome, like it's chicken curry or pot roast in a jar or beef stroganoff in a jar or chicken gravy dinner in a jar. I actually have done that one. I tweaked it a little bit because I didn't want to put potatoes in it. But it's still really cool to be able to make something, you know, everything in it, and when you have a spare day, being able to put some things on your shelf for later that you can just pull out when you need it. Another thing that you can do to cut time is kind of tiny little Lunchables. So I'm not talking about the ones that you buy at the store. I'm saying go ahead and cube up your cheese or cut your slices of cheese or your meat. We had bought a turkey, or not a turkey, sorry, a ham a little while back to go ahead and roast and split up and put in the refrigerator. And I'm so glad I did, because I ended up having to stay with a family member in the hospital during that time. And for the people who were still at home, they were able to grab slices of the ham, make themselves a sandwich with some of the bread that I had already baked. And they had basically their own little food that they could just go in and grab at any point in time. And it functions very much the same during homeschool. If we have things that they can go in and grab quickly as a good snack, it makes my life easier. My kids run off a ton of energy because they are constantly on the go. Whether that is farm chores or whether that is, you know, just playing or gymnastics or whatever activity they're doing, they're constantly on the go. They're constantly moving. They're constantly burning calories. And so, like yesterday, I think we boiled like 30 eggs or something like that. And we just peeled them and put it in a bowl, and my kids were snacking on them We also finished those off this morning for breakfast. And anything that we can do to make things go a little bit smoother in the morning, we do. Another thing you can do is go ahead and prep breakfast. So, or breakfast foods. So things like waffles, pancakes, muffins. If you make a big batch of muffins, you can stick them in the freezer. They freeze incredibly well, and you can pull them out. We've made egg bites that way. We've made English muffin, sausage, egg, and cheese English muffin sandwiches that way, and my kids absolutely love them. And those were completely from scratch, other than the maple sausage. And it helped so much having that when the kids got hungry, or even when me or my husband were on the go, we could just pull them, heat it up, and we were done. Although I don't like using the microwave, sometimes it's convenient. And so, yeah, for that, it makes your life a whole lot easier, especially when you're on the go, going out the door to a sport, or just like this week where we're doing test prep and we desperately need the convenience. Sorry. Another thing that you can do for breakfast is like overnight oats. Another thing you could do is waffles in the freezer. And by the way, waffles also you could sub out for a really cool snack. If you put an ice cream in between, you can make a really nice dessert for your kids. They are really, really good. Ice cream waffle sandwiches. They are delicious. And you can make them with really good ingredients, guys, too. You can put extra eggs in it for extra protein. I've put protein powder in it. I've put collagen in it. The possibilities are endless when you're actually doing it with health in mind. And the stuff that you can make is still delicious, and it's really good, and they're actually getting nutrition, and they're not just snacking on empty calories. We put a ton of fruit in our house. We put a ton of vegetables in our house, and putting extra collagen and protein in what they're eating just works really, really well. Another thing that you can do is prep snacks. So if I've got a little bit of extra time, I will like to prep things like energy balls or protein bars or things like that. They're super simple to make, guys. Like food processor, 10 minutes away, and then put them in the fridge or the freezer, and your kids can grab them on the go. They are super easy, and it saves you so much time when they need a snack in between meals. Like I said, my kids are highly active, constantly on the go, and because of that, having something that's easy and quick to get pulled from works incredibly well for them, and it works incredibly well for me as well, because I'm not bogged down. I'm not having to take a ton of time and a ton of energy to go and prepare another snack. I can sit there and work with the child that needs it, and one person can bring the things that are already prepped into the room. And so the time that I am in the kitchen, I can be very, very highly productive and get a ton of stuff done, so that by God's grace, I can come back and focus where my focus needs to be during homeschool hours. So I hope this helps. Anything that you like to do to save time on meal prepping during homeschool, or even just at any time, put a comment down below. Let me know. I'm always interested in learning more and getting new ideas. And so if you have a favorite recipe that you think that I should try, I'm absolutely up for it. Thank you guys for joining me. God bless, and have a wonderful day.